Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of People of Distinction, the talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, peopleofdistinction.org for more info, or you can always email me directly at benji@alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have Nicholaus Bourland. We'll be discussing his wonderful book, Flail's Kitchen, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. And guys, Nick was brought to our network, People of Distinction, today by some of the best publishers in the business, Limelight Press and Media Publishing. So if you have a book that you'd like moved, do yourself a favor and contact Limelight. You can find out more information on them at limelightpressandmedia.com. And guys, listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Nick here on the line. Now, the moment you go to his Amazon page, his Barnes & Noble page, you start to do any research on his book, Flail's Kitchen, you're instantly going to understand what we're discussing today. Now, it's an action-packed suspense thriller, so you know right off the bat it's going to have a lot of entertainment value there. Now, first and foremost, let's call a spade a spade. For me, guys, I don't know about you, but I've been looking forward to a journey that I can embark upon and get out of the confines that I found myself stuck in for the past 2.5 years, going on what feels like 30. That we've been dealing with these variations of restrictions and lockdown with regards to this pandemic. And this is the perfect exit strategy, right? You're able to leave in a safe manner, embark upon this journey that you're truly not going to want to put down. I mean, this is a page churner at its best. But also, one of the underlying messages and one of the underlying themes that are explored is addiction. Going to be a lot of nuances because this book is based upon true events. So there's going to be so much that you're able to learn and develop. So the wisdom that is infused within the book is second to none. And as the reader, you're going to be able to be given a deeper insight into the world of addiction. And listen, Nick is the expert, okay? He's written the book, he's pulling from his experience, and he is going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. So without further ado, let's jump right in. Nick, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you so much for being a guest with us today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you for having me on.
The pleasure is all ours. As I stated, having a journey of this magnitude is something that is so beneficial in and of itself, given really any time of day, but especially what we're going through right now. But also that underlying message, man, I think is something that is not talked about often and is not explored often enough in really gaining a better understanding of addiction and what that looks like within people in our society, be it family, friends, whatever the case may be. Having a better and deeper understanding is going to really move mountains. So we're very much looking forward to everything that we're going to be able to receive from you today, Nick. Before we go into the book, though, let's hold off slightly. Start by telling our listening audience a little bit more about yourself and your background, please.
Yeah, so I'm an Oregonian through and through. I was born in Portland. When I was 5, we moved to a small community in Central Oregon, a good middle-class family I grew up in. My parents provided well for us, my siblings and I. And, it wasn't until a little bit later in life that I realized we had many elephants in the room, right? I mean, my father's from a long line of alcoholics. My mother was enabling him throughout the process. And, our problems were always just kind of swept under the rug. Never really talked about it at the dinner table unless it was something good, right? Which is oftentimes what happens. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized, the problems that we did have going on at home and what I was brought up in. And so I graduated from high school and went to Boise State. And shortly thereafter, I returned to Portland where I moved in with some friends of mine from high school. And my addiction really stepped up to another notch. I'd always drank and smoked pot and whatnot through high school, just on the weekend kind of thing. And, when I moved over to Portland, we found harder drugs and readily available. And it really set up a foundation for, the book of Flail's Kitchen. And it took me to a whole nother mind state, finding methamphetamines and dealing with that throughout my life henceforth.
Nick, without further ado, Flail's Kitchen. Give us a little bit more insight on the book itself, please.
Yeah, so it is a fast-paced true crime thriller. I mean, it's all based on, the last 6 to 8 months before I was sent to prison. I'd never set foot in a county jail until I was, 24, after a turn of events of things happening in my life. And so the book just narrates through those last 6 to 8 months of what I was dealing with in my life, what my family was dealing with, what crimes were happening, the drugs that we were doing. And, there's a lot of seriousness in it, but there's also, some comedy to it. I spin a different light on it, or it's not such a downer, so to speak. It's not a war story either, but it's an honest story of what life's like when you're caught up in your addiction and what it does and what it can lead to.
Nick, next question that I want to go into, let's talk about inspiration. Now, you've already started to go into it, and you're talking about some of your experiences and how that really set up for the narrative that you put together in this book. Now, I mean, listen, you very easily could have put this together and kept it on your own shelf. Or you very easily could have just verbally told those around you your experiences. But you didn't stop there. You wanted to publish the book and put it out for the public to be able to partake in as well. I'm curious, Nick, what did you see or what did you feel about the words that you were putting down that made you recognize the importance of how this could influence others?
Well, spending a couple of times in prison myself, right? I've read a lot. Obviously I was educated growing up, and there's just nothing like this out there. It's kind of one of those things that, as I said before, is with problems or people's addictions, that, people don't like to talk about it. People don't like to bring it to the table and tell their story because, a lot of it's embarrassing. People feel shamed. I'm not proud of a lot of the things that are in that book, right? But at the same time, I didn't want to sell it short and just write about, the fun or the trouble or whatever. I wanted to put it all out there, put my emotions out there on the page so that you can really get a feel for it and to help other people understand. A lot of people are dealing with addiction in their families and maybe don't have a problem themselves, maybe haven't experienced it in any way. Well, if they were to read this book, they can have an understanding of what their family members going through, what they're experiencing, how they're feeling, really put themselves in their shoes. For me, it was a lot of inspiration to just try and help others. Because I know if it were me in my early 20s and I was able to read a book like this, it probably would have changed a lot of the choices that I ended up making, for better or worse or right, wrong, indifferent, whatever you want to call it. I made some very poor choices in my life that led me to, I'm very lucky to be in the spot that I am today and not dead or in prison for the rest of my life.
Nick, wasn't planning initially on going here, but I mean, after that description, how could I not? So you talk about wanting to put this together and really offer more clarity and assistance to other people that are out there that pick up the book. Now, a couple of questions with regards to that, Nick. The assistance that you're wanting to offer or the clarity that you're wanting to supply, is that for someone else that is embarking upon their own journey of addiction? Or is that for somebody else that is dealing with someone else that is an addict?
Well, it's both, right? I think the way that I wrote the book in explaining certain situations, it's very easy for anyone to relate to, whether you are in the addiction or it's someone that you know that's in the addiction, it really sheds light on being able to relate to it and being able to put yourself in their shoes. And so really it's not only for the addict, but it's for the people that are dealing with things that come with knowing or loving an addict, kind of open for both.
Again, here on the line with Nicholaus Bourland, we're discussing his wonderful book, Flail's Kitchen, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. Nick, next question that I'd love to go into, curiosity really for myself. What would you say was a highlight for you in writing the book? Or if not a highlight, maybe something that surprised you either in writing the book or in the journey in its entirety that you weren't expecting before you began on it?
Well, so I started it when I was in prison for the second time. I started writing it, and it was something that always, I had some really good English teachers in high school, right, that really, really took me to the next level in my writing. Back then, they allow me to write freely and be able to put myself in and put things into my own words rather than just, taking things and using footnotes in your writing, very creative writing styles. And so when I started writing it, I was writing it for fun, right? And then about, 20 pages or so into it, I was like, it started to really hit me. Like, this is very difficult. This is difficult to relive. And so it was hard for me to do as writing it in a true, honest story and being real with it. I didn't want to, like I said, I didn't want to sell it short. And
Absolutely.
So I don't know if it was a highlight at first, starting it, but finishing it was very therapeutic for me. I mean, I cried with, I'm in prison, mind you, and I'm in the day room with someone that I was very close to on the street before I'd gone to prison. His name's Keegan Thompson. And luckily he had a lot of influence in the prison system. Right. And, I could get the day room where I'd write, by myself for at least an hour or two a day. And that last day when I finished, I started crying in his arms. Like it was just a huge weight off of my shoulders. Absolutely. And, it just felt so good to have it out there and to be done with it. It was a good hard-nosed therapy for sure, which I never saw coming in it. I didn't see it as, I thought it would be fun, an enjoyable experience for me to write. And it was a grind. It was a grind for sure.
Mm-hmm. Nick, who would you say is your intended audience? Who's your target audience?
Target audience would be, people in addiction, obviously, and people just wanting to learn more about it, more understanding. My opinion of our criminal justice system is skewed, obviously, being on one side of it, but there's a problem. And the main problem with it is we are sending drug addicts and that are committing crime because of their addiction into a community with each other without rehabilitation, right? I mean, everybody sits there and talks about how to do it better as opposed to how they can live their life better. It's to me, I would hope to find with this book with some people that can get something out of it, and maybe even some people higher up in the chain to see, a young man at 24 years old getting sent to prison just changed his complete path in life when it could have went a different direction had he had the right treatment or offerings of such a thing, rather than just throwing him in with a bunch of criminals.
Nick, I love what you said there, because I think there's been a lot, especially in recent times, there's been a transition that I can see that is starting to happen. We're nowhere close to where we need to be, but I think we are moving in the right direction, where we are starting to recognize addiction not as a criminal activity, but as a mental health issue, right? And as a disease that
Absolutely
needs to be operated and handled in a very, very different way. And I love what you just said there, because it speaks volumes, right? I think our criminal justice system is late to the party. But again, it's moving and making strides in the right direction. So I am hopeful for that. But I love what you just said there, because a lot of work still needs to be done. You know, being an artist myself, I love having this platform to be able to pay it forward, in a sense, to other artists out there. Now, in this instance, other writers out there listening in. Now, Nick, you are someone that has been through the process. You've not only written your own book, but you've also gone through the gauntlet of getting it published. And anyone that's been through the process understands that writing the book is only half the battle. So since we have you here on the line, Nick, I'd love to ask, for any new writers out there listening in right now, what are some words of wisdom that you would like to relay to them?
Just follow your dream and don't stop. You know, I mean, if I could do it from a prison cell, you know, there's no reason why you can't either. And just follow your dream, follow your heart. And if you're writing about something that you truly believe in, and it's meant to be, it'll get out there, you know, and that's what it's all about. You know, I mean, in a way, it's the American dream, right?
I love it. Guys, I love it. You know what I love even more is we're at the end of the interview now, and we've discussed so much information, and yet we've barely scratched the surface somehow, right? I mean, there's still so much left to be discovered. You all know what you have to do. I'm going to say it one more time, even though I know I don't have to, but let's just re-impress it for you. Here on the line with Nicholaus Bourland, we just finished discussing his wonderful narrative, Flail's Kitchen, available for purchase through Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com. A wonderful narrative for you to have on your shelf, a wonderful journey for you to take, and an even better gift for you to get for someone else. Entertaining but educational at the same time. Do yourself a favor, head on over there and pick up your copies today. You surely will not be disappointed. Nick, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. I truly believe that. Thank you once again for being a guest with us today on People of Distinction.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. You're very good at your job and easy to talk to, man. I appreciate that.